Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies. I hope you all had a good brunch. I'll give a little introduction of myself. My name is John. I'm the pastor of the First Baptist Church of San Jose. And today I was invited by Mrs. Bertrand to preach for the annual ladies brunch. So thank you, Mrs. Bertrand, for allowing me to preach today. Really quick, I don't want to be long. I know you guys have a lot of activities today. I can tell we're probably just about finished eating. So if I could just have your attention for about 10 minutes, maybe less, I want to share with you a person that I believe will relate to many of you here in this room. So if you can please turn your Bibles to John chapter 4, and I'll begin in verse 6. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, Give me to drink. So to add a little context, Jesus is traveling from Galilee to Samaria. He's with the disciples, but eventually he departs from them, and he arrives at Jacob's well in a city called Sychar in Samaria, which is in Samaria. And there he is approached by a woman who is of Samaritan descent, and she is unnamed. And you may ask at this point, who is this Samaritan woman, and why is she important? And I want to go back to the last part of verse 6. And it was about the 6th hour, there cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. It's interesting that the Bible actually points out what time the Samaritan woman had gone out. And what's significant, the Samaritan woman came into the afternoon during the hottest part of the day. What's significant about this is that in Samaritan culture, this would be about the time where all the women would go to sleep. They would sleep in the afternoon, and they would wake up, and they would go together as a group of women, and they would gather to the well and socialize. And so this is their social high point. And by doing this, the Samaritan woman, she would go in the afternoon to avoid being ostracized or being criticized by the other women for her status. So by this, we can know that from this passage that the woman was an outcast of her people. A Samaritan woman who was looked down upon by her own people, that would have made her the lowest of low in society. This woman, she was absolutely nobody, and nobody respected her. But I want to continue in verse number 8. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. So just to give a little background of the Samaritans, they were actually a mixed race group. They were half Jewish and half Gentile. And the Jews, they did not like them. So that in and of itself was significant, that Jesus was talking to this woman, that Jesus came to this woman, that he went out of his way. Jesus Christ in the flesh, God in the flesh, would come out of his way to talk to this woman. And she begins to open up to Jesus and ask him questions in verse number 9. How is it thou, being a Jew, ask a drink of me, which am I, a woman of Samaria? And this continues until verse number 11. And this sparks sort of a curiosity within her. But it also reveals an internal battle that is buried in her heart. We'll learn more about this internal battle later. But I want to ask you, many of you are in this room, and you were invited by a friend, and you had the expectation of just having brunch. You really didn't think too much of it. You just wanted to eat, and they might have told you that there would have been a message. But there might have also been that subtle curiosity that led you here. The same curiosity that the woman at the well had when she met Jesus for the first time. Perhaps there's something in your heart that's saying, is there more? So what was the internal battle in her heart? We begin to learn more about this woman's problem in verse number 15. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. Jesus saith unto her, Go call thy husband and hither. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband, for thou hast 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband, and that sayest thou truly. So Jesus turns the conversation into a completely different direction. He asks her, Go call thy husband and come hither. Now, as harsh as Jesus might seem, he gets to an important issue in this woman's life. In all her shame, this woman lies to Jesus and says, I have no husband. She told a half-truth. Within us, there's this human nature to just not tell the truth, to confide in our sin. But Jesus reveals her sin. And you may ask, what is sin? To put it simply, sin is breaking God's law. You can see here in verse 18, For thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. Now I know we just met, and I really don't know you ladies in this room. But in Romans 3:23 it says, For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. We may not have sinned to the extent of the Samaritan woman, but we have sinned to the extent that God has sent his Son to die for us, who was delivered for our offenses and was raised again for our justification. Romans 4:25. The point that Jesus was trying to make was not that he was trying to condemn this woman. For God has sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He wanted to reveal to her that he was the Messiah. He told her something that no one else would know but her and Jesus. She had to come to terms with her sin and what her sin was in the light of who Jesus Christ was. In verse 14, Jesus said, But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up to everlasting life. Jesus gave her the solution to her problem. Jesus takes away all your sin. Jesus is the living water. Jesus saw more than just an outcast of society. He saw a woman who was hurting, was longing for something more than this world could offer. So what can we learn from this Samaritan woman? First, God does not care about our background, whether it's gender, race, social status. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. We all know that verse. And lastly, only God can fill the void that we try to fill through our own volition. The Samaritan woman tried to fill that void, but was unsuccessful. How many times have we tried to do that in our own lives? If I could have us all bow our heads, close our eyes, no one looking around. How many of you here would say, Pastor, I see myself in the Samaritan woman. I came here today with 0 expectations, but now I want the living water. Would you raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Okay. If you mean that, I want you to pray this with me. God, I realize I'm a sinner. I believe that your Son, Jesus Christ, died for my sin, and I ask you now to come in my heart. If you said that, you raise your head. Thank you. Let me just tell you, that's one of the best decisions you'll ever make in your life. That is the best decision you'll ever make in your life. If I could have just the rest of you ladies lift up your eyes. Thank you. That's all. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you ladies, I'm sorry. And if you have any more questions, I'll stand at the back. And Miss Bertrand.